All right, what is up, guys? It is Ben and Justin back again with an episode of The Rundown. Justin, how's it going, man? It's been a week, hadn't it? It's been
Yeah,
fun.
it's been a week. Yeah, feeling a lot better after OKC's win last night, but we'll get into that. But yeah, doing good, man.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I know your Thunder tried their best to give you a heart attack.
Dude, I mean, I even texted you before the game. I was like, I'm gonna have an aneurysm during this game, and it hasn't even started yet.
You did, and then the fun part is you had an aneurysm, but it wasn't because, at first at least, that it was a close game. It's because your team went out there and forgot how to play.
Yeah, it's like that SpongeBob meme where in the SpongeBob movie where he's in the bar and he's just going.
All right. Well, we had some breaking news. LeBron James was seen at Game 4 of the Cavs Celtics game in Cleveland on Monday. Um, so I guess does this signal a LeBron return to Cleveland? Um, what are we thinking about this?
I don't know if it necessarily like signals it, but it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like if they get Donovan Mitchell to stay, he would fit perfectly in with, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. He would fit perfectly in that three spot. He doesn't have to be the primary scorer. He doesn't have to be, some insane defender. He doesn't have to be a distributor. Darius Garland does that pretty well. He doesn't have to be a rim protector. Like they have all of the pieces that would fit around him. And honestly, it would be kind of poetic to see him go back to the place that he started his career. Brought a championship there. I think it'd be fun to watch. But I don't know if it necessarily signals that he's 100% going there.
Yeah, so that would be my kind of second best fit for LeBron. Would be Cleveland, for all the reasons you mentioned. I think they have a young, talented roster, and it would be a great homecoming for him. So just kind of echoing that. But like I said, that would be second. Do you want to know what I think actually the most likely scenario is?
He stays in Los
I
Angeles.
think that I think that the star would stay in Los Angeles. Um, you know, I think that makes the most sense given that his family and business ventures are all located in LA. He's got a pretty good quiet. Well, quiet's maybe a funny word, but he's got a pretty good life there. And like you said, like you were saying, Cleveland might make sense, but I just feel like with his business ventures and everything that he does in LA, that he would stay there. Also, he's got Anthony Davis. They've got some good bench pieces. They just need like really a third name. It's actually funny that you bring up Donovan Mitchell because I think one person that they are targeting is Donovan Mitchell, or Trey Young to play alongside him and AD. I think that would be kind of the ideal scenario because it's not like the Lakers were bad really this year. Like they were pretty solid. It's just they're missing that one piece. When LeBron is your best player and he's 900 years old in basketball years, you just need that younger scoring option. And I think that was the problem is whenever LeBron and AD were off the floor, the rest of the team just couldn't get it done. So
Agreed.
yeah, I mean, I think it would be really cool to see him in Cleveland. I think some other teams he would fit pretty well on would be like Orlando, where he could run the show there. I think he would fit well, maybe honestly in Philly. I don't think he would go to Philly, but I think he would fit really well in Philly because they're missing a point guard. Um, I think he would fit really well in Boston. He wouldn't do that, but I'm just listing off teams here that could use his services. I think Boston. If you added LeBron to Boston, that would be like giving the Avengers Thanos. It would be pretty crazy. So anyway, that was just a fun little story we saw that we decided to add. Some of the rest of it, the NFL schedule, some of it has been leaked. So obviously, most of this has been true. I haven't really seen any that were leaked that were false. But the Kansas City Chiefs will open up the season hosting Baltimore in Week 1 and Cincinnati in Week 2. I think that's going to be a fun 2 week span, although I feel really bad for you because that Week 2 is just smack in the middle of your honeymoon, right?
Yep. Yeah, I believe it is on September 15th, and we leave for our honeymoon on the 14th. So I will be somewhere in Europe while that game is happening. So
I mean,
kind of unfortunate.
you could always watch it at like the ass crack of dawn or whenever it's going to be on where
I
you're
think
at.
I think it's like 7 a.m. I think it's like a
Could you
5 hour time
imagine?
difference.
Could you imagine Caitlin's trying to sleep and she just hears "Let's go!" It's 7 a.m. Who they? Who they? Who they think
Just
gonna
me
beat them Bengals? Who they?
around the hotel room, just who they?
And then you text me like 20 minutes later, "Dang, bro, my marriage is already over."
Yeah, that shit lasted 2 weeks.
Oh gosh, I think that's gonna be a fun 2 weeks for the NFL. I mean, you get a repeat of the AFC Championship, and obviously Lamar is gonna have something to prove because he did not play well. His coaching didn't do him any favors, but he did not play well. I would not be shocked to see Kansas City lose that first game, given what Baltimore feels like they have to prove. I would not be shocked if that game ended up like 42-21. Like, that just wouldn't shock me.
Especially considering they had a Derrick Henry that they didn't have last year.
Right. That Bengals-Chiefs game, I think, is going to end up 31-28. One of our classic
Because it
three-point...
always is.
One of the classic three-point wins, 34-31, 27-24. It's going to end something like that. The next one, Aaron Rodgers will return to the Bay Area on Monday Night Football, where the Jets will face the defending NFC champions San Francisco 49ers. Something that I saw that was interesting was that the guy who tackled him on the play he tore his Achilles plays for San Francisco now. So his debut on Monday Night Football. I love all the tweets that are.
I just love the tweet. It was Aaron Rodgers' other Achilles has a
That's
chance
what I was
to be
about
the
to say.
funniest thing ever.
It's not funny. We don't want him to get injured, but that was a good tweet.
Yeah.
The actual schedules are being released Wednesday night, so while these are confirmed to be happening and some of these games are, out there now, it's, obviously the rest of it has still been leaks. So as always with leaks, it's not guaranteed, but shaping up to be an exciting NFL season nonetheless. Alrighty, let's get into it as we have one of our classic misses for this show, as I last week said that Denver would be getting swept.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, I will say, in my defense, I'm standing by it. Don't get me wrong. I said I missed. In my defense, I did say if Jamal Murray gets suspended, which it came out, I think, an hour after we recorded that he wasn't being suspended, and to be honest, that made me very mad because they bent the rules so that their ratings could stay up, is what it felt like. But
You also want to hear something wild?
Sure, let's hear it
really quickly. So he got fined $100,000 for throwing the towel and the heating pad on the court and doing the money sign. Right, $100,000. Rudy Gobert did that same thing. Just the money sign, though. Just the money sign.
$75,000.
$75,000. $75,000. So Jamal Murray potentially injuring somebody and ending their season was worth $25,000.
Yep.
Is what the NBA just told us.
Meanwhile, we've seen players get suspended for less.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Was it Hassan Whiteside that got suspended for throwing a mouthpiece? Something
Steph
like
Curry
that.
did.
Well, he didn't get suspended. He got ejected. But there was one guy who got suspended before that for throwing a mouthpiece, because that was when they were talking about the Steph Curry mouthpiece incident in Game 6. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, he should be suspended for Game 7. There's precedent." Nobody was going to suspend Steph Curry for Game 7, but that's beyond the point. We've kind of trailed off a bit. But so obviously, because I said Denver was going to get swept, now we're coming back. It's a 2-2 series. After Jokic drops a 35-7-7 performance, really just cementing that he was deserving of that MVP. You want to give us the stats for the players? Because there were some pretty wild stat lines in this game.
Yeah, so on the Nuggets side, obviously Jokic went for 35-7-7. Aaron Gordon went for 27-7-6. And Jamal Murray went for 19-5-8. And for the Timberwolves, some noticeable stats was that Ant went for 44-5-5. Mike Conley went for 15, 2, and 9. Karl Anthony Towns went for 13, 12, and 3 on 5 of 18 shooting. And Rudy Gobert went for 11, 14, and 1 with 5 turnovers. Yeah. So the Nuggets ended the first half on an 8-0 run in the final 20 seconds, which started with, I believe it was MPJ. No, was it KCP that hit the three?
Yeah.
Yeah, so KCP hit a three with about 20 seconds left. Anthony Edwards takes the ball up, turns the ball over. Jokic gets it ahead to Michael Porter Jr., who throws it home. And then Minnesota just tries to get it into the front court. And Jamal Murray intercepts that pass and hits just a insane 55-footer right in front of Kevin Harlan. And that 8-0 run, the Nuggets ended up winning by 8. So I mean that's not nothing. Meanwhile, Anthony Edwards turns in just yet another phenomenal performance, but ultimately it was not enough. So, is the Nuggets' success in the last 2 games more attributed to their postseason experience, or do you think it's more attributed to the lack of experience in the T-Wolves?
So, on the T-Wolves really quick, I think these last 2 performances taught me a lot about Minnesota. The first 2 games they played extremely physically, and I think more on this in a second, but I think that they caught Denver off guard a bit. And so that's why they were able to go up 2-0, because they just played very physical. It threw Denver off their game. So then Denver said, let's return the favor. And
I bet.
I got to tell you, Minnesota, when they get pressured and they're defended very physically, outside of Anthony Edwards, they're kind of ass. I mean, Cat gave you 13, Gobert gave you 11. Those are your 2 and 3. Like Anthony Edwards was out there, help me. So, Anthony Edwards can score all he wants, but once Denver gets their shooting back and starts playing like the Denver we know they can be, Cat and Gobert being your 2 and 3 and giving you that just isn't going to cut it. And, to answer your question, I think that the Nuggets' success is due to their playoff experience. And it goes beyond just, hey, they know how to come back when they're down. It's even like I was saying a second ago, they hadn't experienced a physical team like that. The Lakers had size, but they didn't play them very physically. Jokic is used to being able to bully people and then immediately turn around and just lazily throw up a layup or throw out a pass, and they were getting locked down full court, for the first 2 games. And so whenever they adjusted for that, the T-Wolves didn't respond to the adjustment, and they shut them down. So, we'll see if the T-Wolves can respond, but it's not looking good right now. You had the defending champions on the ropes. You did. You win game 3, you get them down 3-0. Series over.
It's curtains.
It's over. But instead, you get killed 2 games in a row, and now all of a sudden it's back to square one, and now it's anyone's series. You're tied up. And now, instead of being a best of 7, it's a best of 3.
And Denver has home court advantage.
And Denver has home court. It feels like a missed opportunity here.
For sure. Yeah. I think for me, what's really turned this series around is Jokic. And I know that's easy to say because he's, 3-time MVP, but I think he's been so much more aggressive trying to score the ball.
Oh yeah, he was terrible the first 2
passive.
games.
Yeah. Yeah, rather than being so passive and, not really, it seemed like almost like he was a little scared of Gobert.
He was worried he was going to get COVID again.
Yeah, honestly. But I think him being more aggressive around the basket and scoring the ball, and what it's done is it's ended up getting Cat and Gobert into foul trouble. And, they have 3 bigs that they can throw at him, but when each of them are picking up 4 and 5 fouls through 3 quarters, it makes it a little tough. So I think that's kind of what's turned the tide for the Nuggets. And yeah, they stole all the momentum that Minnesota had built through the first 2 games. And Minnesota's honestly, I know it's tied 2-2, but I would say Minnesota's on the ropes right now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't argue with that. I mean, I still think Minnesota's in it because I mean it is a tied series, and because we've seen. But the thing is, both of these teams have taken turns punching each other in the mouth. So it's like I could see Minnesota turning it around, but the fact that you now have to go to Denver, assuming it goes 7, you have to go to Denver twice. It feels a bit.
And yet you have to win one of them.
It feels a bit like you're on the ropes, like you said. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm honestly really excited for the rest of this series. This series went from one of the most boring to, this is a good series.
Honestly, like the series as a whole.
Oh, it's been awful. The games have been terrible.
The series as a whole, like it's good. It's 2-2, but like each game individually, dude, these games have been decided by like 20 plus points. Like each game individually, honestly, been kind of ass.
I have sent you in all 4 of these games that screen recording I have of the guy at the Memphis Grizzlies game getting up in Draymond's face. Whoop that trick! Whoop that trick!
Yeah.
Like,
because each team has taken turns getting their trick whooped.
At one point, we would just, one of us will text the other one, "Oh my!" and then the score.
Be like, "Oh my, Denver's up 100 to 42." Like it's not that bad.
It's never been that bad, but good lord, could you imagine turning on an NBA game and seeing that a team was up 100 to 42? Actually, you can imagine that because your Thunder lost by 70 a couple of years ago. I didn't need to go there. Indiana tied the series 2-2 as it's headed back to New York after they blow out the Knicks in Game 4, 121 to 89. That is not a typo. That is 121 to 89. A professional basketball team was held to 89 points.
Back in 1972, that was huge.
That was a big game, yeah. But the Pacers led by 20 at the end of the first quarter, 28 at the end of the half. And at one point during the second half,
gotta clean his glasses here. I don't know if he's reading that right.
They were up by 43. My goodness. So, I think the biggest story here is Tyrese Halliburton, man. I mean, we saw
the last 2 games he's played fantastic.
He's played phenomenal. He's I got more on this in a second, but you got 26-5 from Halliburton. You got Siakam gave you 14, 4-2. Turner gave you 13, 5-3. And then Naismith gave you 8, but 12 rebounds and 1 assist. And then you had, on the Knicks side, Jalen Brunson had 18, 3-5. Alec Burks had 25-2, and then Deuce McBride had 16, 5-4. This was one of those games where why were the starters for the Knicks in the third quarter?
Dude, the entire third quarter.
The entire third quarter. You're down 43. What are we doing?
Like, I understand if you want to have him in for like the first 6 minutes, like, it's 28. It's first 6 minutes. Maybe you get it down to like 15. You just go on a good run. You get it down to 15, and then you see what happens after that. But it only got worse. Like
it got so much worse. Also, I don't know if you were able to hear that or not, or if it'll be heard on the recording, but we're currently getting a severe thunderstorm, so there potentially will be a break in this, depending on if I lose power or not. Hopefully I don't, but just throwing that out there for the listeners. I completely disagree with Coach Tibbs playing his starters in the entire third quarter. I mean, you're down $2 million. This looked like the 2017 Golden State Warriors against Southeastern New Hampshire Technical College University Northern Campus, A&M, Go Sugar Gliders. Like, what are you doing? You get down 30, and I'm, We're packing it up.
And what makes it even worse is that you got guys like Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. And well, the thing is, they're playing 45 plus minutes a game.
Yeah,
Josh Hart's played like he's only missed like 6 minutes the entire playoffs going into this game.
exactly.
6 minutes.
It's like, what are we
Like
talking about?
he's putting so much mileage on his legs that he's gonna be shot, and it's showing.
For sure. I mean, I think you rest your start. You get down 30, 35, you pull your starters. You pull them, you rest them for game 5 because at this point everybody's hurt. Hell, you and I are on the injury report. Like what are they doing?
I don't know. Some good news out of the Knicks camp, though, is I did see OG Anunoby is returning to some basketball stuff. I don't know exactly what all that entails, but from what I've seen, it's about half speed right now. So kind of good news, but probably not good enough for this series, is what I would guess.
That's good. So I want to ask a question. With attrition setting in for the Knicks, or seeming to set in for the Knicks, is this now the Pacers series to lose? Or can the Knicks overcome their 6-man rotation and find a way to, sneak this one out? Because right now it seems kind of in dire straits.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the Knicks. The Pacers are actually the betting favorite to win this series right now, which is kind of surprising. The only thing the Knicks have is that they're going to have 2 of the next 3 games on their home court. So hopefully that they can use the home fans to kind of energize them. But when you got Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson and all of these guys playing 40, 43, 45, 48 minutes, like it takes a I don't know. I mean, those extra like 6 to 8 minutes that they could have gotten, when in reality that's an extra, you know, extra probably like 20 minutes of real time, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're playing all of these minutes, every second that you're on the bench helps. Every second that you're not having to make cuts and jump and just bang around bodies down to the post or whatever, like it helps. So I think with Tyrese Halliburton playing much better over these last couple games, I mean he's put in 52 points over the last 2 games. And the thing is like he's put in 52, but like we know that Siakam can go off. We know that Nembhard and Naismith can hit big shots. We know that Turner can, he's not going to go give you 30, but he can give you a solid 15, 17 points. They're just deeper, and they just have guys that can. They have more guys that they can rely on down the stretch. Whereas it just feels like the Knicks, it's like, if their 3-point shots aren't falling, then you're relying on Brunson to kind of save you. And that one guy's only going to get you so far.
For sure. We did have a little bit of a lag during that answer. We got the majority of it, but I think some lightning hit nearby and my internet cut out for just a moment. So I did lose some of that response, but we got the gist of it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, don't worry. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this feels like the Pacers series to lose. Like we were saying, it feels like Halliburton finally figured out his life and is playing closer to that all-star caliber player we know he can be. Meanwhile, like we said, you and I are on the Knicks injury report, so it feels like it's more shocking whenever we feel like, or whenever we hear that someone is playing on the Knicks instead of someone isn't. And you couple that with your best players are playing 90 minutes a game, and it's you're just going to run out of steam. And I see you calculating over there. Look at the minutes that they've played, though, and tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, you're not.
These two teams really are fighting to see who's going to go get swept by Boston anyway. But the Knicks just feel... I mean, the Pacers feel like they are overachieving. Whereas the Knicks feel like they're a piece away. mean, some bench depth wouldn't hurt, but they feel like if they had like a Kevin Durant or someone who was just like a pure scorer, I think they'd be dangerous.
Yeah, to
Um,
take some pressure off of Brunson.
absolutely. Um, but they don't, and I think the injury bug just hit them at the worst possible time, and it doesn't feel like they have enough guys healthy enough to play and win 2 more games. It just doesn't. All right, so let's get into our next segment as Boston sneaks out a win in Game 4, pushing their series lead to 3-1. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Cleveland played this game without Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell, so the fact that this was even close at all is kind of ridiculous. But so for the Celtics, Jason Tatum had 33, 11, and 5. Jaylen Brown had 27, 8, and 1, and then Drew Holiday had 16, 7, and 5. And then for the Cavs, you had Darius Garland with, I'm sorry, I thought that said LeBron James, but it says Darius Garland had 37 and 2. And then Karis LeVert had 19, 5, and 3, including a last second 3-point shot. Or maybe, I think it was just a 2, but a last second shot.
Jumper, yeah.
So Justin took, what was it, -8 for Boston? So they had to win by 8. And they were up by 9. And then with like 2.8 left, Karis LeVert hits a 2. Like the game's over. He just pulled up for no reason, hit it. And so Justin's bet missed. Oh, you hate to see it.
So bad.
Evan Mobley had 19, 9, and 3. And then Max Strus had 13, 7, and 7. So I will say this game got very close towards the end, and it shouldn't have. The Cavs, they cut the lead down to 5 with 1:55 left, but they could not get stops down the stretch. Even without Jared Allen and Mitchell, they still look formidable, though. And I mean, like we've said, this game should not have been close, but here it is, a 5-point game with under 2 minutes to go. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The Celtics are without Tingus Pingus as he suffered a calf injury in round 1 versus Miami. I hadn't seen that yet. That's funny. Kristaps Porzingis is expected to return at some point during the postseason, but there isn't a definitive timeline yet. You know, this series for me has been it's one of those things where like Boston I think still should be the title favorite. But doesn't it feel like they're not as convincing as some other teams? Like,
yeah, I mean, over the last 3 years, they're 16 and 16 in the playoffs at home.
Yeah.
Any like legitimate bona fide like superstar team should not be 500 at home in the playoffs. Like, that's ridiculous.
No, and like it's like Boston, if they were in the West, would be like the 4th best team. Because part of the reason they're a 64-win team or whatever it is because they play in the East.
Yeah, so they get to play,
they get
Detroit
to play 52 Eastern Conference teams.
Yeah.
You know, I think if they were in the West, I don't know. They're not. Boston is another one of those teams that like could win a title, but also feels like they're a piece away. Because I just don't think Jason Tatum. I think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the perfect 2. Like they're like 2A and 2B, but they're missing that 1. Because at times it's like, oh, this is Jaylen Brown's team. Oh, this is, Jason
Tatum.
No, Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum,
No.
Derek White. I couldn't think of his first name for some reason. Has had some games where it's like he takes over, and it's like Jason Tatum just runs away from the ball in that moment sometimes, and it's just like he's supposed to be the one. Like people try to convince us he should be an MVP, and it's just like it feels like about half the season he's not even the best player on his team. So, what were your thoughts on this game? And then I know you had a question.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland looked pretty damn good, even without 2 of their best players, 2 of their starters. It just kind of felt like they made some really critical errors down the stretch, and they just could never recover. But I mean, even with that being said, like they still put up a fight. They still cut the lead to 5. Had a shot. Could they have gotten a stop down the stretch? But it just it always just kind of felt like Boston was kind of in control of this game. And it, even when it was 5, it just kind of felt like it was still out of reach
Mm-hmm.
um, for the Cavs. The thing about the Celtics for me is I just don't know if they're going to be physical enough to match up with Boston or Minnesota. I think, if either of those teams gets to the finals and that's who they match up with, I think they're going to struggle with both of those teams' physicality. Um,
Even
you know,
OKC.
OKC is a bit physical, yeah. I think I think they'll they split 1-1 with OKC this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they match up a little bit better just because I think Boston's a little bigger, especially with Porzingis back in the lineup, which he'll be healthy by the finals. Um, and Dallas, Dallas doesn't scare me if I'm anybody at this point.
No. I mean, I know,
So
I know the Thunder. I know the Thunder are struggling with Dallas a little bit, but that's mostly just because Luka Doncic has his razzmatazz hop skiddly do.
no, dude, it's been PJ Washington.
Who? No, I'm just kidding. He played for Kentucky, but still, who?
Yeah. So, should Cleveland be upset with the results of this series if and when they end up losing in 5 games? Or, do you think this should be a successful season for the Cavs?
I think they're gonna lose in 6. I don't. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say it.
All right, guy.
um, should they be upset? Absolutely not. I mean, they've been dealing with injuries, and they weren't going to beat Boston even fully healthy, right? I mean, nobody picked them to beat Boston, and unlike some of these other teams that maybe had a chance to upset Boston, as long as they show up, should win this series. Cleveland is another one of those teams that feels like they're a piece away. Like, it feels like their issue, I think, is just kind of size. Like,
I mean, they have Mobley and Allen.
they have Mobley and Allen, but like once they're not on the floor,
They go really small.
they go really small. And
I mean, because they have Tristan Thompson, but Tristan Thompson's like 97 years old.
right in basketball years. So I mean, Eastern Conference semis, I think that's a successful season for Cleveland. I think, after this season, you focus on re-signing Donovan Mitchell if you can. Maybe see if you can bring in LeBron. If you can't bring in LeBron, maybe you try to see, you test the waters with some of these other free agent guards. Like, I mean, maybe not Paul George, but like, someone of that caliber. You just go from there. So, I don't know. What did you think about this question?
I don't know. I definitely think this should be looked at as a successful season for the Cavs. I mean, it's their first series win without LeBron in like 40 years. So, obviously that was in the first round. And like you said, I don't think they were beating Boston even if they were healthy because not a lot of teams have beat Boston this year. So
No.
I didn't really think they had a shot to beat them in a 7-game series.
They didn't even
So,
beat them in a 4-game series, just like you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, I don't think they should be too distraught after, losing in 5, which they'll probably end up doing. So, I think all in all, this should be looked at as a pretty successful season for the Cavs.
This was like a good middle ground. You're like,
Yeah,
we were here last
they
year.
rebuilt after
we're
LeBron.
here, and like this is a good stepping stone to get us where we want to go next.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna let you read this next headline just because I like the way you worded it, but I want you to say it.
The Dallas Mavericks, they shot like booty butt from the free throw line, going 12 of 23 as they drop game 4, 100-96, and OKC evens up the series 2-2, heading back to Oklahoma. SGA goes for 34, 8 and 5. Chet adds 18 and 9. J-Dub did not have a good game, but went for 14, 9 and 6.
Which J-Dub?
The starting J-Dub.
Mm.
The other one's J. Will.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I
Yeah,
differentiate.
Jalen Williams, not to be confused with Jalen Williams.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And then Lou Dort adds in 17 points and 8 rebounds. OKC just got 12 points from their bench.
Was that 17 points or 17 fouls? I couldn't tell.
Well, I mean, the way
we'll get there.
Luka
We'll
cries
get there.
about it.
We'll get there.
Speaking of Luka, he went for 18, 12, and 10, but that included going 2 of 9 from 3.
Okay, Spice Adams, I see you.
Kyrie added in 9 points, 1 rebound, and 9 assists.
Ooh.
Yeah, PJ Washington, the freaking Thunder killer, went for 21 and 12. Derek Jones Jr. added 17, 3, and 1, and Daniel Gafford added 10 and 8. The Dallas Mavericks set a franchise playoff record with 13 blocks.
Only 13?
Yeah. Actually, going more into the game, Luka had a chance to tie it with 10.1 seconds left. They were down, I believe it was 98-96. Went to the line, or no, it was like 96-94, I think, is what it was. He went to the line, chance to tie it with 10.1 seconds left, but he missed the first free throw. OKC essentially went into game management mode as SGA and Chet both hit their free throws to put the game out of reach, ultimately winning it. The Mavs had a 14-point lead early in the third quarter. They pretty much, it felt like they had a 10-point lead at like all times in this game until the last like 4 minutes.
But the Thunder won, baby.
Let's go!
Let's go! Oh man.
Thunder up.
Yeah.
So this was a fun game. Like I said, I thought I was gonna have an aneurysm before the game, and then I had 2 aneurysms during the game. It shows the resilience of this team. Like they never backed down from a challenge. Like they got down early, they stayed down, and they kept it within striking distance, which is what good teams do. Like, if they're gonna go down, they don't let it get out of hand. They go on a couple runs to keep it close, and they just hit the big shots down the stretch. Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, they both had some huge threes in the final like 3 or 4 minutes, and they just made the right plays. And dude, it was awesome. It was so fun to watch.
Absolutely. Really quick before you get into the question, you know what this game reminded me of?
What's that?
That meme where it was like me watching insert my favorite team names game here. Let's go! The entirety of the game. I'm going to effing kill myself. Hey, we won. That's exactly how watching this made me feel like you were. Like that entire game, it was just you being like, oh my gosh, I hate everything. And then it was, hey, we won.
I'm pretty sure I texted you like 4 minutes into that game, and I was like, GG's, we'll see you in game 5.
You really did.
Like,
well, I mean, to be fair, it was like 22-9.
Yeah, it was 22-8 at, the first like 6 minutes into the game, and I was like, yep, it's over. GG's.
I took the dogs for a walk whenever that game, it was 22-8. And I went to take the dogs for a walk, and in my head, I was thinking, what, like, house building or orphanage building or, like, bricklaying jokes am I going to make on the podcast tomorrow when we talk about how OKC lost by 42? That's how it felt. Like, I mean, just watching the opening of that game, I was like, good God, have they ever shot a basketball before?
No.
Like, dude, I watched Lou Dort pull up an air ball of 3. I was like, what am I watching?
Nothing good.
And then, of course, he got 2 fouls in like 3 minutes, which was rough. And that was, I mean, we talked about the officiating last week. But truly, like, Luka gets every call. Luka gets every call he whines about.
It is insane. He is easily becoming one of my least favorite players, and I really liked him. I thought he was a fantastic player. He is easily becoming one of my least favorite players just from this series. Like, it is every play.
And literally every time he pulls up, he passes the ball, and his first reaction is...
Yeah, and it's like, dude, like, not everything is a foul.
Like, okay, Patrick Mahomes. Oh.
Yeah, and like, or he'll drive in. Lou Dort will play great defense, and then like Chet will just get a clean block, And he'll be like, "Where's the foul?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's not a foul. Like, that's just clean defense."
Well, then 9 times out of 10, the refs are like, "Damn, dog, you right."
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, it is.
Hey,
You're gonna get me
breathe,
fired up.
breathe. All
Okay.
right, yeah. So that
Yeah.
question there.
So with all of the with all of the momentum that Dallas had after winning 2 games in a row, going up 2-1, and then being up 14 multiple times throughout Game 4, do you think that Dallas just blew their shot to win this series, or are you not ready to count them out just yet?
I mean, I'm not ready to count them out just yet. The reason being is that the Thunder are, I think the Thunder are the better team, but they're also young and inexperienced in this moment. And while I think that I would pick the Thunder in the series, I've picked them the entire time. I would still pick them in the series. Luka specifically has shown an insane ability to stay alive in playoff series he has no business being in. Like those series against the Clippers earlier in his career, or, just they should have him. I mean, they had a 3-1 lead and he ended up, fighting his way back. Or, Kyrie Irving obviously is one of the greater ball handlers and just scorers getting his shot we've ever seen. So it's like, while I think the Thunder are going to win the series, I don't know that I'm ready to. It's not like the Denver-Minnesota series where I genuinely feel like Minnesota is probably done. Like, I still think this series could easily go 7. So,
My thoughts, in the wise words of Vince Carter, it's over. That's all I have to say about that.
hey man, I like it. You're sticking by it. It's your team. No, this game though, I mean, it was rough. Like, I don't know that there's really any other way to put it. It was rough until it wasn't.
Yeah.
But like I told you, that meme I really feel like was the way that you felt that entire game, because that entire game I feel like was just you being like, "What are we doing?" And then, hey, we won.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, so that's kind of all the recaps we had for the previous week. I just saw a bolt of lightning in the background that lit up like the entirety of. I've got a ring light right here, and it lit up more than that was. I also got my
That's
hand.
always fun.
Yeah, so that was fun. We're going to move on. We've got another edition of Taverner's Tears. This may be the last one we do. We might do a Final Four, but this one I think it's at least getting there.
Yeah.
We should do a Tears for the Final, too.
I mean, I could always rank players, which
That's true.
I figured that's what we would do.
That's true. We'll definitely have to, once the second round's over, pick our conference finals teams. So
We'll do.
all right, without further ado, Justin, it's time once again. Lead us into your segment, my friend.
All right. It is everyone's favorite part of the show. It is everyone's reason that they listen, everyone's reason that they tune in. Taverner's Tears. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, tier number 1, we have Because They're in the East.
So these are all the teams that I am ranking towards the bottom of these rankings because they're in the East. Because, they're either currently playing the Celtics or they will have to play the Celtics. So coming in at number 8 with a 0% chance to win the championship, that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 7 with a 2% chance to win, I'm giving that to the Indiana Pacers. Number 6 with a 3% chance, I'm giving that to the New York Knicks. The reason I give the Knicks a slight edge is because they have 2 of the next 3 games at home, and I think they can match up with Boston's physicality a little bit better than Indiana can.
Assuming their players are still in one piece. All right.
Well, yeah.
On to the next tier. McQueen is fading fast.
So these are the 2 teams that, kind of felt like they had all the momentum going in their direction, and now all of a sudden it feels like it's falling apart. So coming in at number 5 with a 10% chance to win the championship, in my opinion, that is the Dallas Mavericks. And then at number 4 with a 15% chance to win it, That is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Give the T-Wolves a little bit higher of a chance here, just because I think they match up with whoever's coming out of the other side in the Western Conference a little bit better
Oh yeah,
than I think Dallas would with either Minnesota or Denver. So that's kind of where I gave Minnesota a leg up there.
that's fair. Now watch, because you have them in this middle tier. These are going to be the two teams that meet in the Western Conference Finals.
Naturally, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Our bona fide title contenders.
Coming in at number 3, I have with a 20% chance to win it all, the OKC Thunder.
Bang.
Number 2 with a 25% chance. This is actually more like 1A and 1B. They both have a 25% chance. That is the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics. Kind of gave them even odds, just because I think Boston's going to get Porzingis back probably sometime in the conference finals. So they'll have a little bit of time to ease him back into playing. And the Nuggets, well, they're the Nuggets. So
All right, I like it. Actually, for once, the only thing that I would flip is Dallas and Minnesota, but I understand why you did what you did, and I can't disagree with it. So it's a good tiers. Good job, my friend.
thank you.
Question:
What's up?
if you're Boston, if Kristaps Porzingis isn't like 100%, and you're up, let's say you're in the conference finals and you're up 3-1, do you bring him back or do you sit him?
So they're gonna have home court advantage for Game 5. I would probably sit him for Game 5. If he's still not 100% by Game 6, I still sit him. And then if he's still not 100% by Game 7 and it's 3-3, I think then you have to play him.
I think so too. All right, I like it. All right, and that is going to do it for this episode of The Rundown, everyone. It's been a fun one as always. Had a lot of good stories this week with the NBA specifically. So, make sure that you all like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, as that will allow you to see our show. And at least on Spotify and YouTube, you'll get to physically watch our show. I think on Apple, it's just the audio. So, all right. And then make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Rundown Sports Pod, so that you can catch all of our other content and make sure you don't miss an upload. So until next time, guys, have a good day.